Hey, Lee Wolf here, and welcome to Game Face Monday. We are live as usual. I hope everyone had a great weekend. Mr. Richie Bello sitting by my side, and today we have a special guest. We want to kick the doors open on the topic of data a little further, and we have Bob Sherman, who's a business development strategist and an expert, definitely in the field of data. So, how you guys doing?
Great.
Hi, Lee. Hey, Richie. How are you guys?
How are you, man? Thanks for coming in, Bob. I'm really humble that you're here.
Not a problem.
All right. Well, before we start picking on Bob's brain here, we're going to jump to a quick cutaway from Shop Smart Autos, our sponsor.
We continue to show dealerships across the country how to retain their customers. But now Shop Smart Autos wants to bring the new customers right to your showroom floor. The car they want? It's sitting on your lot, and Shop Smart Autos can bring you the VIN-specific leads that take them straight to your door. These aren't just leads. They're nurtured, targeted, and matched down to the exact vehicle. You'll sell more cars faster, and your team is going to thank you for it. Shop Smart Autos VIN-specific leads. Let SSA show them the way to your showroom floor.
All right. So, Bob, thanks again. Thanks for being here today. I was excited to hear about the wealth of knowledge that you have to offer. Richie's been very clear about that over the last week with me. Tell us just a little bit about your background in the automotive industry and then what you're doing in the industry today.
Well, I started a long time ago. I've always been in the retail supporting vendor field. So never worked directly at a car dealership, but worked for quite a few vendors that support retail. I worked for Reynolds and Reynolds for probably 17 years, starting in the automotive industry. And then I transitioned to an automotive data company called RL Polk, which is now part of S&P Global, and they call it the Mobility Division. And worked for a couple marketing agencies after that. So, it's kind of like what really opened my eyes about data was when I landed at RL Polk. And what I learned most is how to understand data and make data more usable at the retail level. And because I always worked at retail supporting, it was always about how could Polk data integrate into other vendors' tools to make their solution better. Mm-hmm. And one of the very first success cases is Max Digital. We approached Max Digital, and they were obviously they were a competitor to vAuto at the time. And what they were doing was taking a dealer's data, their sales data, and their stocking data, and saying, well, Mr. Dealer, this is what you should have on your lot based upon what you sell.
Right.
Well, what was hidden from them is what was selling in the market as opposed to what they were selling.
Okay.
Right. So if you have a Chevy dealer, maybe he's selling a ton of Chevys and a couple Fords or whatever. But, if a Honda Accord is the number one selling car in that market, probably wouldn't hurt him to have some Honda Accords on his lot. And you either acquire them by, customer acquisition or at the auction. So in essence, it gave them that dynamic, if you will, of a better picture of what was happening in the marketplace.
Right.
So if they didn't have that data, think of it as somebody that was driving a Honda Accord came into that dealer's lot and said, yeah, I'd like to trade my Honda Accord and I want to buy a brand new Chevy Silverado. The dealer would be blind as to what to price that car at in terms of a trade-in because they'd never dealt with anything before.
Right.
Well, with Polk data that would be pumped into it, they could see, hey, it's the number one selling actual vehicle in the marketplace in this dealer's territory, regardless of brand. And then, you may want to step up on a trade for it. Right. So that's where I started to understand a lot of the retail vendors' solutions into the marketplace, whether it's used vehicle acquisition, whether it's actually new vehicle sales marketing. We work with TrueCar. We work with a ton of different companies to help them understand what the data was telling them.
Right. Right.
So we used it on the analytical side, which Richie is very familiar with, and then the marketing side for both.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's interesting.
it really opened my eyes to say, data is really more important than the actual marketing, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make any sense to market to people that can't do anything anyway.
Right.
So, how many times have you heard, 50% of my advertising is wasted. I just wish I knew which 50%.
Right.
And Polk has always been kind of at that forefront of being able to peel the onion back, if you will, and make it a little bit more targeted. And now with first party data being so important, dealers really need to use first party data, but inherently there's two problems with first party data. In the DMS side of the world, that customer VIN pairing gets outdated because somebody flips out of a car at a different dealership. The old dealership that sold the original car doesn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they're missing a lot of data.
And let's talk about that a minute.
Yep.
So you were at Polk back in the day. Reynolds and Reynolds was the one that controlled all that, and they would give you the cards, and it was a mess, remember?
Mm-hmm.
Then they hired the Polk company to clean up these DMSs, right? Cleansing, right?
Well, they did. Yes, I was part of that, and they did things where it was more national change of address, telephone append, email append.
Why? Yeah. Because Polk had the registrations, so it would fit good, right? Mm-hmm. And here's the thing: they cleansed it. It was cleansed, okay. But here's the thing: the hygiene of the when you're dealing with data, okay, there's something called dirty data. You know me and my data, right? Dirty data and clean data. Jeff Clark, what does he love about my data? It's clean, right?
Yep.
That has to do with hygiene. I actually spend more time hygiene, cleaning that data up, okay, than actually doing anything with it, marketing or anything like that, right? Because there's plenty of dirty data out there. What tools are in place right now that a dealership has that they're cleansing their data? Zero. None. They don't worry about that. They worry about their DMS, and they worry about getting that information, giving it to the CDPs and all that. That's great. But who's cleansing that data? No one, right? So I was in a store that they use a system like that, campaigns, email marketing, and SMS and all that. When I ran the VIN retention report, I said, let's do this, right? I'm going to give you the VIN retention report. Every single month while you're with this company, I want you to check something out. And when they looked at it and we uploaded the CSV file and we confirmed it, those cars were gone already, and they're doing marketing for those cars. So then they're doing something even greater than that. They're doing bulk email. So some people get it and some don't. And it could be the ones that get it are the ones that don't need it.
Right.
Correct.
Oh, there's no A/B testing either, right? So now here I am at this store paying attention. A Reynolds, right? A whole thing with Reynolds and a whole thing with Dr. John. Now I'm watching and I says, wow. And how much is this service costing you? About $2,500. And I didn't say anything because you know how I am, Bob. You know me a while. I don't like talking negative about anybody, right? So I says, wow. But I said in my head, oh, there's an opportunity here. With the VIN retention report, it gives you the CSV file, cleanse your DMS. Boom, right away. That's the first thing that came because I see that that's a problem. So, and they've always had this problem. They continue to have it. However, there's an organization called Lithia Motors that has one of the best data science guys you've seen. And that's what they do.
Yeah.
This is why they get registration data every quarter. And this is what they do. They cleanse. Their job is to go in the morning there, have coffee, and just cleanse. They're cleaners, I call them. I call them, you guys are cleaners, right? They cleanse that data. So, and if you look at their data, it's beautiful. It's clean. So now the conversion is going to be greater scale.
Correct.
What's going on with the private seller? Private seller, you got Facebook, you got all these. There's so many. It's so dirty that you got to cleanse that data and identify if that customer is really selling their cars. And now, why? I always like to talk about the whys. Why is it that there was no private sellers years ago? Everything was on the curb, and then the private sellers went in. Well, there's a company called vAuto that's owned by Manheim. Okay, so what is it? Well, they look at this number there, and they decide then that number without looking at is that car hot or weak in the market. Okay. I mean, that number that Manheim has, that's just an auction number. Okay. What happens if there's, how many Accords are there in that 10-mile radius that's black with 30,000 miles? That's a whole different thing. Yeah. That car has a different number than you're looking at the machine. So what happens is you give the number to that customer walks away and says, wait, let me try to sell it privately. And when they try it, they make more money. Now you lose control as a dealer because he doesn't need to trade it in. Now you lose control, right? Losing control equals money. Because when you lose control, he's not servicing that car there anymore, right? So you lost that. And then you lost the trade-in. And you lost that you're going to sell him a car. So these things are happening. And you got a company like CarMax that in every market they have for dealers to go there because it's much cheaper to buy a car there than at Manheim. So trust me, Manheim's aware of what's going on in the marketplaces.
Oh, they're well aware.
They're well aware of it. And they're also aware of the private seller network. And there's an opportunity there with the private sellers. So at ShopSmart, we have the private sellers. We've always had it, and you knew that since we started. We concentrated on data, not just leads. So, but we have AI agents that we make the phone calls for you and make the appointment for that customer to walk in there because we do campaigns on trade-ins. Okay, now that has a value where just here's the list, Kelly Blue Book. Here's the list. Go ahead. So you got all these buying centers, AutoNation has it, Castle Automotive, all these people have buying centers. And they're hitting the wall with these buying centers because these buying centers, the buyer's on the phone like at a lane at the auction going over numbers instead of selling the appointment. They don't know. They don't know how to sell the appointment. Just don't know because that's not what they know how to do. So they get to their BDC. Their BDC people don't know how to bring that customer in. Mr. Customer, the reason we're calling you is because we deal with a wish list here, and your car has come up 30 times on the wish list. That means that the Honda Accord that you have, we have 30 customers in service that are looking for it. So we'll give you top dollar. Are you available AM or PM? Right? They don't know how to do that. What they do is, well, how much you want for it? Well, how did you arrive at that? They start negotiating that. Bang, you're done. You might as well just put a bullet in your head. Bang, see you. So that's what happens, right? So that's happening more and more because it's a whole different evolution. We're not used to bringing in private sellers in a dealership. We don't have the ability, the skill, phone skill to make the appointment. We give it to the buyers negotiate the numbers and they bring them in. Some of them bring some people in, but the volume of it doesn't take it sellers. That's why all these private seller guys are out there and they're spinning because the dealer says, okay, they'll buy it for the first month and then it's a cancellation the next month because there's no ROI yet. The process and the infrastructure of private sellers is not in our industry yet. And now the real solution is we do the appointment. That's what we do. We give you the private seller, but we make the appointment for that customer to walk in the showroom. At the end of the day, what really matters is that appointment that walks in the show.
Correct.
Nothing else really matters. All the AI, all the nice fancy stuff and all that, that's great, but it doesn't matter. Now, there's a lot of solutions out there that are great, that I've seen unbelievable. You mentioned one that I'm really well aware of. Tell me a little bit about that company.
Well, the company I mentioned was Auto Acquire AI. It's a kind of a full service, first party data. Think of it dealers data in buying cars directly from the customers from the dealer's owner database, right? So they verify via registration data that that is still the current owner of the car, or if it's not, they get the new owner. And they also get all the other vehicles that may be in that consumer's garage, right? They know how long they've owned them, how long they've been registered, whether they leased them, financed them, high degree of appending email addresses and cell phone numbers. So it's as pristine as the data can get.
Right.
So that's kind of the key, because
right,
from my RL Polk days, when we used to have a solution that just lets you know if did the customer sell that car,
right,
we would give them a flag of a yes or no because we would see a title change.
right.
But Polk would never update who the current owner is or the other vehicles in the garage.
Right.
So it was a yes/no flag, right? So now that's kind of gone, if you will. There's service out there now that has that data that can provide actual owner data legally.
Yeah, and that's funny you should mention that, because direct mail pieces use registration data. Bois uses title data, because that's the owner, the title, right? The registration data, you could be buying a car, you could be my co-signer, the title's under me. It's a whole different thing.
I'm using registration data in a generic sense of saying registration/title data.
Exactly.
Because obviously I could register it in my company name,
Right.
but I'm still driving the car. You would get the driver of the car.
Right.
So ultimately what makes Auto Acquire AI, I think, so successful, or the ability to be successful, and they're a relatively new company, is they have accurate data, right?
And that's
from there, the process of trying to acquire that deal from the customer can now take place because the data is accurate.
Right.
Going back to the Polk data, we knew on average 1 out of every 2 records in the dealer's database between what we call the customer VIN pairing was wrong.
Happened to me almost every day. Almost every day when I was making calls, customers would be like,
I got rid of that 45 years ago. Or how many people say I got a direct mail piece for a car I didn't own for 7 years?
Right.
It's because the dealer's data is that dirty.
Yeah.
And there's nothing out there fixing it. Well, it's out there now.
Mm-hmm.
I think Todd Smith with a company called Core AI, he goes about it in a little bit different way, but he makes that data highly, highly accurate. I don't necessarily know if it's as accurate as the other registration data, but he's taken that step, right? And he's doing real well with his solution, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
He's really good, Todd. Todd's
great, right?
He's great. He's a great data guy.
This whole concept is, it doesn't really matter if you have bad data. You're going to have to send 20,000 pieces of mail to get the 100 people to buy, as opposed to sending 5,000 pieces to get the same 100 people to buy.
Right.
So people say, well, I'm not used to spending money on highly accurate data or data hygiene, Richie, as you talk about. Let's just use that generically. But guess what? If I'm sending out 20,000 pieces of direct mail and I could do it with only 5, you're spending that money anyway, but you're not getting any clean data.
Well, I tell them this, Bob, it's a real easy thing to overcome. Mr. Dealer, you're right. But your competitor is using that process.
Correct.
And he's eating your lunch. And you know how I know he's eating your lunch? Look at your VIN retention report.
Exactly.
And Lithia in your market dominates. And the reason they dominate is because they're using that. So do you want your competitor to have access to something that you're not using?
Well, to your whole point, let's talk about, the private seller network, right? And the evolution of the private seller network and how it's kind of more, I don't want to know if I use the word exploding is correct, but it's growing substantially, right?
Right.
Well, dealers are trying to find quality used cars. So more dealers are going to the auctions because that's how you used to get them, right?
Right.
Well, now everybody's going to the auction and bidding up prices of used cars. Well, to that point, they get back into those cars get back into the dealer's lots and they find out they probably overspent for them. And now they got to lower the price, right? So the margins are shrinking. So they're now thinking, what's the better way of acquiring cars? Well, gee, if you could buy the car directly from the consumer, i.e. private seller network, or what I just talked about, AutoAcquire AI, going straight from the dealer's database, not necessarily even using the private seller network coming from Facebook, Craigslist, or wherever they're coming from. The consumer gets a better price on the car. The dealer gets better margin on the car when they retail it.
Right.
What's the downside? I don't see it. But what's it take? It takes highly accurate data.
Right. Right.
And then you build a process after that. Right. So Richie, what you're doing with your SSA VIN product, your VIN retention product, whatever you want to call it, that's phenomenal because it's waking dealers up to say, I didn't realize my data was this bad. Well, I've been saying that for 20 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You kind of get tired of saying it. It's like they won't
whoever worked at Reynolds and whoever worked at Polk know what happened with DMS. We all know. Okay.
Yeah.
It was like, what is this? That nobody even knew the problems they were. What is this? It got to the point where OEMs stopped co-op when you promote a service because that data was so good. And that's why it had to get fixed, because now the OEMs are saying, we're not giving you no co-op with this. And now the whole evolution came where Reynolds reached out to Polk and the whole thing. And that was a very big learning curve for me. Okay. Because I said, wow.
Yeah.
And I said, wow, nobody's inspecting, but it's more than that. Nobody's paying attention. Now the OEM stopped the co-op, the whole co-op thing. It's a whole thing. It's, it's a union, United Auto Work. It's a whole thing. It's like in Michigan, it's a whole thing. You know that. So now they stopped that. And now what's happening? Now they cleaned it, but they cleaned it once. Big deal. Cars move around all day long. You got to really
a dealer's database will change somewhere between 2 and 3% in terms of customer and VIN ownership, 2 to 3% every month.
Exactly.
So if you sit there and say, hey, I'm only going to clean my database every 6 months, well, somewhere between 12 to 18% of your database is wrong.
Is wrong, right?
Is wrong just on ownership. And then how many people have changed email addresses or whatever? You're chasing bad dollars at that point is what I call it.
Yeah, correct.
I love car dealers in the sense of their entrepreneurship. But I actually think dealers that actually get aggressive in first party data in knowing what to do with it. Now, how they do that is different. A dealer doesn't need to go out and build their own CDP or do something with a CDP company. They need something where it's more of a data portal that their marketing vendors use.
Right.
And the data portal is where all of the first party data resides that's cleaned and appended.
And let's not forget something. The sale is made on the buy, not the sale.
Correct.
And now they're using this VO, boom, boom. They go to behind, circling in the same type of car, and the sale is made on the buy. Guys, you're making the sale right when you buy the car because now you got something. And why not focus on private sellers? Okay. Right. Now, without private seller, I wanted to have a conversation with you. I've had plenty of conversations, but I got a platform that's ready to launch. Our private sellers, right? When you log in, let's say Castle Automotive, right? You log in, the feed is right next to you.
Yeah.
The VIN retention report is right next to you. It's telling you what you're selling and what your competitor is selling. So now you're going to pick the right car, and then populate the cars that are available. The first, when you go in, are the cars that you are selling, right? So now you can put a number on these cars because you're selling them. And then you can search any cars you want, of course, but it populates that, right?
Right.
With the VIN retention next to it, right? And what you're selling 30, 60 days, okay?
Correct.
And now, are you like Polk, right? Target data. Why is data important? Because you can target it. Well, we're targeting the private sellers because now you know the cars that are being sold.
Correct.
Okay? So now you know you're not going to buy a Mustang that you sell it every year. Okay.
Right.
It populates the feed. It populates the VIN. All the tools populates the VIN retention report. All these tools come out, and now you can make an intelligent decision of buying the right car for the right price.
Correct.
Right. So that's how we're doing it. Right.
Right.
So it's a whole different thing because I have all, we have the tools, it's all about the tools,
Well, you've got, what did it start with? You hygiene the data all the time to make it accurate.
Right.
From that point forward, you can provide a solution to the dealer,
right,
with a process built around it, and voila, they're getting cars from the private network.
Right. Correct.
How many dealers would want that?
Exactly, a ton of them. So we're excited, Bob. The reason I had you here because you've been here with me way at the beginning with ShopSmart, and you've seen the evolution. And we're excited about this new platform that's going to populate all these tools. So now the dealership can make a better decision. Not only that, he can also step up if he needs to, or not step up. With the trades, right? So now. He's got that opportunity.
Well, think about it. Think about how quickly we see shifts in the marketplace, right?
Yeah.
Either up or down.
Right.
So if he's got that data at his fingertips and he's out buying cars and wanting to buy cars, and he noticed that, hey, things are softening up or whatever, he makes instant decisions specific to the profitability of the dealership on the buy side.
Immediate decisions. And that's what you need them to do based on the flip, because if you're flipping the car, that's the car you want to buy. At least I want to buy that. And it tells you the history also, because automotive data, if you don't have history, no good. It tells you the history of it, the last 12 months, how many Hondas Accords did you sell?
Yeah.
And color, so it gives you a very good idea of what's in front of you. And that's the whole thing, for the conversion to happen.
Exactly.
Because a buyer gets on the phone, I hear him on the phone going over a Honda Accord. They don't look at the color. They don't look at the block. They just look at this report. Okay, 11.5. That's it.
Right.
But can I ask you, what about that car that's black with low miles that has a different value?
Correct.
You can throw that book right out the window. That's part of being a real used car manager or a buyer.
That is correct.
We don't have that today. So we're making everything into the technology world like that, hopefully for them to learn it, and then they can master that. So the private sale is important, right? What's really important is dealers, CDPs, PDCs, whatever you want to call them. You're doing that, and the data is not cleansed. There's no hygiene in that DMS data.
Sometimes there is, Richie. I'm not going to say that there isn't, but there's levels of hygiene, right? What does that mean? Hygiene is just an abstract word or a generic word, if you will. But what does it mean, right? Anybody can do NCOA. Anybody can try to do email append or cell phone append. Most people don't have very good cell phone or email append services. You might get 10 to 20% if you're lucky, right? That's not going to really help too much.
No.
right? So these other services that I've been referring to, they're spot on.
Spot on, right?
Spot on, right? So I encourage dealers to, use solutions such as yours that is using that type of data
Right,
because of the quality of the data,
right,
and use marketing agencies or whatever you want to call them that have that data being used in the background also.
Mhm.
Right? I call it that marketing portal.
right.
And I mentioned to before because, once you've got that, once you have quality data that's in a usable format, then you can attach all these other services to it that are using that, right? So if you want to move from marketing agency A to marketing agency B, you just tell the marketing agency B, you got to use the dealer's marketing portal because the data is highly accurate and appended, right? Because why would you move and then start using dirty data again?
Right.
It makes no sense.
Right.
So
A dealer asked me, Bob,
Mhm.
hey, Richie, if you would be the dealer, how would you cleanse the DMS? And I says, not because I want to sell you the VIN retention. The first thing I would do is get the VIN retention. The second thing I would do is get registration data on the VINs that say that you don't have them, right?
Right.
It does the tool does a lot of work for you already for cleansing it, right? Then you take that CSV file and you cross-reference with registration data, right? And now you know that customer what they actually bought. Okay. Not that you lost the car. Okay, you lost the car, but what did they buy? Right. And Bob, you have that solution in your wheelhouse, right?
I know of it. Yeah.
Yeah, you know of it. So, and you know that solution very well. And that solution, if I'm a dealer today and I'm cleaning data, I get the VIN retention report because it does all the manual work for me. So now I can just identify like a sore thumb. Okay, so all these cars are not here according to this. Let's get registration data and find out what they bought.
Right.
To
Well,
find out if I lost a deal because of the brand or I lost a deal because I really not paying attention. My showroom's not paying attention. Find out why you lost a deal. If you lost a deal because it's a Honda and they went to Nissan, that's a whole different thing.
Well,
But
think
you
about
lost
Ricky. Also
Singapore.
think about the fixed operation side too. So let me give you some. I'll go through a quick math tree. Right. Let's say a dealer's got 20,000 unique customer VIN pairings in their DMS. If you remember a little bit earlier, I said on average about 50% of those customers are wrong. Those pairings are wrong.
Right.
So let's say I'm a Chevy dealer. Here's 20,000 customer VIN pairings, 10,000 of them are wrong. If you use registration data from the service I'm talking about, the 10,000 are wrong. You're going to know who they are overnight. So Lee Wolf may have bought that Chevy Silverado, but now I'm telling you, Richie Bello owns it.
Right.
Well, now you can target Richie Bello, who's not in your database at all, for service. You got 10,000 fixed operations opportunities overnight. Now, how many of them still live in your, AOR or whatever? That's a different question. But you only want to market within your AOR or right outside your. Maybe it's 7,000, right?
Right.
Where could a dealer find 7,000 people that are driving his brand that he either sold or serviced that still live in his AOR overnight?
Right.
He can't.
Right.
That's why that data is so valuable, right? So if dealers are having problems filling up their fixed operations department, gee, there's an opportunity. And then, Richie, we've been talking about the sales side, right? How many of those 7,000 people the dealer doesn't know would be willing to buy a car or sell their car or buy a car? How many people of those are on the private seller network?
Right.
You start cross-training it, and it's like, holy smokes, this data is, to die for, right? Mm-hmm. Think about all the other things I can do with it. So whether it's private seller network or the DMS side or the CRM side, it's all about starting with accurate data.
I gotta say something. Like, Bob Sherman.
Yeah.
Bob Sherman is one of the best data people I know of. Not only that, he's a great consultant. He can coach you, Mr. Dealer, going over the data, what you got to do, funnel it in so you can get a better ROI. Okay?
Right.
Because if you don't hire a person like Bob, you don't know. You don't know. We all know what we know, and that's all we know. Okay?
Right.
Hiring a person like Bob, I have a dealer, hire him in 2 seconds because he's going to help my team focus on the data and how to get that data. Everybody talks about big data, but not everybody knows how to make money with big data.
Correct.
Not everybody knows, right? So that's the thing with you. That's the thing that I love about you, that consultant side that you have with data. And data, it is the biggest thing in the automotive sector, always was, but it really scaled into something since sliced bread, because data is more important than lead gen, by the way. Okay, because if you are getting lead gen and without data, you can't get it. If you are getting it, you're just lucky. Once you tap in data to that lead generation, you're always going to get leads.
So think about this registration data side too, Richie. To me, this is one of the more impactful things about using registration data, right?
Right.
If you marketed, if you had this highly targeted data, accurate targeted data, and let's say you sent out a sales marketing piece to 3,000 people. Well, in today's world, a dealer is going to know what they sold because they got it in their DMS. We sold 100 cars, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you have access to registration data, guess what? You're going to see all the people that bought cars,
right,
but not at your dealership, and what they bought and what dealer they bought it from.
Right.
So now you can start inspecting your internal processes to say, I know we targeted these people. Did they ever make a phone call to our dealership? Did we ever make a follow-up phone call to them to say we marketed to them? Did they come into the dealership? Did we get them on a test drive? Did we get them on a Foursquare or sales process, whichever the dealership uses? And if the customer did all that and didn't buy, boy, there's something wrong at the dealership. So I call it peeling back the onion again, right? So the data can tell you a lot of the front end of the story because it's highly accurate.
Right.
In the back end of the story, because we know exactly what the customer did. Now you get to inspect that internal process, the marketing process, the sales process, the communication process.
Mm-hmm.
The dealer is now going to be in front of that. So you mentioned Lithia. I bet you Lithia is doing that to the dotting their I's and crossing their T's 9 days on Sunday, because
Lithia's got the best, not for nothing, but Lithia's got the best
process. They now have built a process to understand.
They got the best data science guys I saw, and that includes people at Polk and all that. They got really good data science.
So
they're young kids that understand the data. You understand something? These young kids, Bob, they can run cartwheels around us. These kids understand this data thing.
Yeah,
I've never seen anything like it.
So I mentioned, that's what think about what Auto Acquire AI is doing behind the scenes, because guess what? They have to know what to buy that car at.
Yeah, correct.
That's got to take highly accurate data. Ron Morrison from Pure Influencer has kind of a mini version of what Auto Acquire AI does, right? But he's using kind of that same data, but he's built in an internal process to do that whole thing. So it's happening out there, whether it's private seller network, which we all love to get cars from, but it's now moving downward directly to the dealer to say, Mr. Dealer, target your own customer database first, right? So it all starts with highly targeted data, because guess what? If Ron and if Anthony Montero at Auto Acquire AI were using crappy data that has legacy data that's been out there, they wouldn't be anywhere near successful as they are.
No,
they'd kind of be in that turn and burn type thing, because a dealer would catch on that the ROI is not there for the money that they're spending.
Right.
the biggest thing I can probably tell you from a financial side is dealers that go and get this high quality first party data within probably somewhere between 4 to 6 months after doing that, they will be spending less on marketing than they were before.
Right.
So they'll have an increase in this data hygiene or data quality, whatever that is, but they will have an overall reduction in marketing. Or they will go after market share aggressively against other dealers that don't have it.
Right. Absolutely.
So the really, really aggressive ones will figure out how to lower their acquisition cost, and then they'll start going after market share. We're kind of heading into a soft market right now, which means market share is more important than volume, right?
Sure.
The good dealers are going to go after market share. And the dealers that just kind of throw their doors open and say, well, what's your marketing plan? I open my doors every day. Right? They're going to find out their market share is going to go down. Their volume is going to go way down.
Right.
They're already having a problem with market share.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of dealers are, and it's serious because they've been mismanaging this since COVID came out. And now it's time to pay attention. So I love what you do, Bob. I really do. I love the fact that you're out there and you're always seeing everything that's going on, and you're analytical,
Yeah.
Data guys, data actually talks to us. We see the data and we already know we got to do. It talks to us. So having the analytics of you, Mr. Dealer, in the hands of Bob, right away, he puts an action plan together, a process, where you're at. You know how to maximize your first party data. He knows this business better than anybody I've seen.
Yep.
Okay. He knows the data business, and the data business is a very big business. You're in the intel business. That's going to make you a lot of money if it's done right.
Yep.
Dealers are seeing data. Okay, so let's do data. Now they start doing data. They don't even know what they're doing with selling a car, let alone data.
Okay? That's true. Yep.
Right? So now they're saying, oh, data's good, Richie, and they don't even know what to do. They don't know what to do. I tell them, focus on selling cars and hire somebody to do this, because that's why Lithia is doing that, and AutoNation and all of them. They're focusing on data. And a lot of dealers out there are not. And it's scary that they're not paying attention to the massive amount of data that flows in your dealership daily.
Right.
It's just totally amazing. Imagine if Polk would be around now with all the data. He would first put a process and take all that data and cleanse it immediately, right away, 2 seconds.
Yeah, absolutely.
Imagine the opportunity there is today for a company like R.O. Polk. I just imagine. There's a massive amount of opportunity.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You're seeing these entrepreneurial people start building these solutions that the companies that I mentioned, right? And they're building efficient processes for the dealer to just, the dealer really doesn't have to do a whole lot. They just need to kind of, okay, I'm going to acquire this car because I signed up for this service, right?
Right.
It's more of a service. It's not the salesperson at the dealership or the buyer, the buying center, buyer, whatever, trying to go out and buying those cars. They're all done for them.
That's unbelievable. Bob, it's really a good live show we had with you today.
Yeah. It was kind of fun.
I really want to thank you.
You're welcome.
And Bob, you always humble me, because you have such massive knowledge about data, and you're out there and what should do. I can only imagine how you go to sleep saying, my God, I see so many things, because I nod my head every time that somebody tells me something and they're just doing it wrong. It's like the service line, right? Fix it right the first time, right? Don't put a Band-Aid on it, because the Band-Aid is going to keep coming back and back and back, and it's going to bite you.
Dealers need to
Dealers are
think
getting bit.
dealers need to change their mindset. You know, I don't, we've all seen it, right? And
Yep.
I won't take too much time here, but some dealers are just so used to doing it this way that it's hard to get out of that mindset.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't care.
Anyone in any industry. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. I'm not downgrading dealers. They're the greatest entrepreneurials in the world, right? They really are. But it takes a different mindset, and to finally get that, concept, I kind of call it, some dealers, they're trying to turn a tugboat in a bathtub.
Mm-hmm.
Change is difficult sometimes. It's a cultural shift.
Right.
And you got to be able to be in that mindset, and it's got to be able to be driven top down.
Right.
Because I can guarantee you, when everybody woke up today to say, I got to go to the dealership and work today, it was like Groundhog Day.
Right. Right. Yeah.
You have to change the mindset.
Yeah.
The dealers that have that, hey, just because I did it this way yesterday doesn't mean it's the way it needs to be today. If you're open to understanding what's out there from a first party data perspective,
mm-hmm.
you don't need to swallow the elephant on day one. How about just dealing with the rabbit, right? And all these solutions I mentioned, those are what those are.
Mm-hmm.
It's just going to make life a little bit easier. The first party data, your VIN retention tool, Richie, dealers that adapt to that and see it are going to win in a marketplace.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Bob, for being on the show.
Thank you, Bob, again.
You're quite welcome. It's great seeing you, Lee. Great seeing you, Richie.
And hope to see you soon, right on the show again, because you got so much massive knowledge that knowledge has to go out to dealers today, right now.
Yeah.
Because the problem they're having is what you can fix. Thank you, Bob. You're the best there is in this business when it comes to this. Thank you.
Richie and Lee, thanks for inviting me on the show. It was fun.
All right. Have a good weekend.
All right.
Have a good week, I should say. Sorry.
Yeah.